So one thing that I'm noticing is, at least for this week in creating and publishing my content, is that uh, even just the idea of adding in video, essentially it took me about a whole day just to kind of get that dialed in to figure out, okay, what's a good, simple, basic way that I want to do the video. Again, because I don't want to overcomplicate the process. I want there to be as little friction as possible. What I found in the past is that, the more steps you have to go through, the more things you have to get just right. And when your overly perfectionistic mind starts to kick in, that it can really, slow things down and complicate things unnecessarily. So one thing that I found is that just by adding in this video component, it it has really slowed down the process for me to create the content. And you wouldn't think that, something just as simple as just flipping on the video camera would slow things down. Because again, I'm in front of my computer and I've got the same content up in front of me that I would be using if I was going to write an article, going to create a podcast. And for the last month, I've been doing that without video because, again, I wanted to remove any points of friction from my process, because this is part of learning from your past behavior. What have been the reasons why progress has not been made? And that's part of just really learning how to be more self-aware, learning to be honest with yourself and to track, what are the true hurdles or the points of resistance that have kept you from getting up to speed, from getting momentum. And for me, again, it's been that perfectionistic thinking. It's been that fear of failure, that fear of looking stupid, that fear of making a mistake. And I don't know that it's so much what other people will think of me, but naturally that has to be a part of that because that's somewhere tied into those other examples that I just gave. So I've noticed that just adding this video component has slowed me down to where this week I haven't published anything yet. I don't have an article written. I don't have anything posted. And so on one hand, it can be like, okay, no big deal. You're incorporating in a new component, a new aspect to your processes, to your content production. And so you can allow yourself a little bit of grace and give yourself a day or two, maybe buffer as you're starting this new part of your process, a little bit of wiggle room to get your process going, especially when that process is now deviating from what you have been doing. On one hand, you would feel like this really shouldn't be slowing down my process much, but it is. And so I'm just trying to like roll with the punches, be in tune with what's happening, not get too discouraged, not get too bent out of shape, you know, and again, give myself some leniency and do what I've been doing over the last month, which is, just quick, imperfect action, simple, simple, simple. Try to not overcomplicate the process and just learn as I go. And experience really is, I think, the greatest teacher. And there's things that you will learn while you're in motion, while you're moving, that you won't learn otherwise. You're not going to learn when you're just standing still. You're not going to learn it, even just from like necessarily reading a book, going through a training. Again, it's when you're going to actually apply that knowledge in the real world where I think you actually make progress, you actually learn. And so to me, this is just a part of the experiment. Learning as you go, documenting and sharing your progress, sharing your evolution, your path with others, and just kind of putting it out there because you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be things that you won't even think of before you start, that as you're on the journey, I've heard people say before, it's like a staircase, a spiral staircase, for example, is that as you're going up the staircase, you can only see a few steps at a time. You just got to keep walking in order to be able to see the stairs that are higher up. What I have found so far in my experience is that you learn as you go. And what I mean by that is, when you might think something is more difficult than it actually is before you start something, and you might think something is easier than it actually is before you start something. And you only learn as you do it. what actually is difficult, what actually is easy throughout your processes. And so again, it's kind of like somebody telling you what something tastes like, but you not tasting it yourself. It's like you don't want to make too much of a judgment without you actually tasting it for yourself, because that experience of tasting it is going to give you, the most accurate picture of whatever it is you're trying to do. So I would say just, a big takeaway from this is just dive in and, taste things for yourself, experience things for yourself, handle them, touch them, feel them, and take your steps. Just take one step at a time, and as you do, you will learn things along the way. And then by documenting your journey and documenting your steps, you have the beautiful thing that's called the editing phase of whatever you're doing with your documenting. And now, of course, you don't want to over edit either, but it could give you some peace to know it doesn't have to be perfect in the first take. That's why when they make movies, they have, hundreds of hours of extra footage that never makes it into the final cut. But they record it, they document it along the way so that they have it just in case they want to use it. So I think we can apply that same mindset. So anyway, that's my insight for today. This is just, again, my experiment with diving in, having just a little seed of an idea of what I want to talk about, and just seeing where the conversation goes and where the video goes from there. So just want to share that for today. Hope it's useful. And all right, talk soon. This is Josh Ford.